नमस्कार दोस्तों, welcome to channel Toxicology on Board. Today in this video we'll be discussing another DABT topic, that is investigational new drug IND. So this question is taken from ABT recertification question year 2000 now. The question is, a sponsor of an investigational new drug IND is required to report adverse drug experience to the FDA within 3 working days. When the options are: Option A patient dies in the clinical study. Option B, an unexpected death occurs in a clinical study which was unexpected to the tested drug. Option 3, that is new animal toxicology data show unexpected long-term toxicity. Option 4, that is an unexpected fatal or life-threatening experience associated with the use of the drug in a clinical study occurs. The right answer will be in the green text, that is whenever there is unexpected fatal or life-threatening experience which is associated with the treatment drug, then immediately you have to report it to the FDA. Here, this question is taken from the year 2000 now. But when I looked into the FDA website too, here I have given the link as well as the screenshot from this FDA page. IND application reporting safety reports. In this note, instead of 3 days, they have mentioned it as 7 working days. So what is the 7 day rule? What is this 15-day rule reporting that we will read in this particular from this particular from this FDA question and answer document. Okay, so for time being, remember this is the concept that we are going to read. We are going to read about IND application reporting safety reports. So, what is this IND application reporting safety reports? This information is the source of information is from the FDA website. IND application sponsors are required to notify FDA in return safety report of. So, for example, there is a certain sponsor. I am the sponsor. I am doing a new trial on an investigation drug, and during the trial, if I found that some adverse reactions are there, which is associated with the treatment drug, then I have to report it to the FDA. So what are those things that we are going to discuss here? Any adverse experience associated with the use of the drug that is both serious and unexpected, you have to categorize those adverse reactions. Some of the reactions might be serious, some of the reactions might be unexpected. You don't expect from the particular investigational drug or any findings from the test in laboratory animals that suggest a significant risk for the human subjects. Because whenever you are doing the trial, though, you are doing in a limited number of subjects, but some kind of potential threat hazardous you can see in the animal trial which might have a significant risk to the human subject, those things are also need to be reported to the FDA. For example, mutagenicity, for example, teratogenicity or carcinogenicity, which you will see in case of animal trials. Those things might have a link with respect to human risk safety. So that also need to be informed to the FDA. So in the options you have seen, these were also mentioned. Okay, suggest a significant risk for the human subjects, including reports of mutagenicity, teratogenicity, and carcinogenicity. Adverse event. Now we'll see the different definitions of the adverse event, adverse suspected adverse reaction, or unexpected adverse event. All these things which are given in the FDA website only we'll discuss. First, we'll discuss what is adverse event. Adverse event means an untoward medical occurrence associated with the use of drug in humans, whether or not considered drug related, whether it is seen in the case of control animals or treatment and not treatment, all these things will be considered listed under adverse event. Untoward medical occurrence in humans, whether or not considered to the drug related. Okay, keep it in your mind, these definitions. Next is suspected adverse reaction. Already some we are doing some kind of new investigation drug. It belongs to a certain class of chemicals. We already know that this class of chemicals, you already have anticipation that okay, this since this drug belongs to this class of chemicals, there is a high possibility of this kind of adverse reaction you can come across while doing the trial. So suspected adverse reaction means any adverse event for which there is a reasonable possibility the drug causes the adverse event. Okay, for the purpose of IIT safety reporting, reasonable possibility means there is evidence to suggest a causal relationship between the drug and the adverse event. For example, penicillins are there. If it belongs to the same class of antibiotics, definitely you have hypersensitive type of reaction. For example, ACE inhibitors are there. Definitely you have certain type of kidney toxic, or NSAIDs are there. Definitely you have kidney toxicity. Right? If they will, for example, valproate or anti-epileptic drugs is there. All this class of drugs are having a possibility of causing cleft palate. Like that, if they belong to the same class, then a casual relationship between the drug and the adverse event can be done. That is suspected adverse reaction. A suspected adverse reaction implies a lesser degree of certainty about causality than an adverse reaction. Always, when you're reading these things, no, when it comes to epidemiological, when it comes to statistic, no, you have to read these terms: causality, relationship, temporal, trends, dose response relationship. All these key terms you have to integrate and read. Adverse reaction means any adverse event caused by the drug. Okay, first was adverse event. It might be associated with the drug or it is not associated with the drug. Here, adverse reaction is an adverse event which is caused by the drug. Adverse reaction are a subset of suspected adverse reaction. In this one type is this one, where there is a reason to conclude that drug causes the event. Drug is responsible for causing this particular adverse reaction. An unexpected adverse event or suspected adverse reaction refers to an event or reaction that is not listed in the investigational brochure. So you have to read about IB also. So in that IB also, you have some listed adverse events will be there. If in that IB, whatever in the IB, if this particular thing is not listed, then that kind is called unexpected adverse event or suspected adverse reaction. Not listed in the investigational brochure, or is not listed at the specificity or severity that has been observed. Or if an investigation brochure is not required or available, for example, it's a new drug, then at the time of initial stage of trials, no, you might not have IB, is not consistent with the risk information, because you're still, the drug is under investigation, you're still gathering the information. Risk information not consistent with the risk information described in the general investigational plan or elsewhere in the current IND application. So this is completely new type of reaction you have come across, that is called unexpected adverse event or suspected adverse reaction. Okay, so I know it is bit confusing, but you have to read, because one question with respect to IND and adverse reaction, with respect to the number of days they have asked the question. So better we read all types of important terminologies which are associated with this type of adverse event reporting. Okay, serious adverse event or suspected adverse reaction refers to an event or reaction that, in view of either the investigator or sponsor, results in any of the following outcomes. Now here our question comes. First slide you have seen that question. So what are the listed things we'll see? One is death, second is life-threatening adverse event, third one is inpatient hospitalization or prolongation of existing hospitalization, fourth is a persistent or significant incapacity or substantial disruption of the ability to conduct normal life function, for example, kidney impairment or liver function. Okay, a congenital anomaly or birth defect. So, like cleft palate or neural tube defects, all these things. So whenever you find any of these events which are associated with your treatment drug, then you have to comes under this serious adverse event and suspected adverse reaction, and you have to report it to the FDA. Life-threatening adverse event or suspected adverse reaction. This is was there in your option. It's considering life-threatening if, in the view of the investigator or sponsor, its occurrence places the patient or subject at immediate risk of death. If it is causing respiratory collapse, respiratory muscle paralysis, something like that, that is life threatening. Okay, it does not include an adverse event or suspected adverse reaction that, had it occurred in more severe form, might have caused death. Important medical events that may not result in the death, be life threatening, or require hospitalization may be considered serious. Here you can see prolongation of the hospitalization, because there are certain events are there. that has to be monitored by the physician in the presence in the inpatient hospitalization only. So those patients which are participants in the trial, they will not allowed to go to home. Okay, they have to be monitored in the presence of the physician, investigator. Okay, so when based upon appropriate medical judgment, they may jeopardize the patient or research subject may require medical or surgical intervention to prevent one of the outcomes listed as serious. So again, I'm saying it might be difficult to remember everything. Uh, you go through these notes twice or thrice, then you will understand what are the life-threatening adverse events or suspected adverse reaction. And when you read, try to compare it with the examples, then you will be able to remember it. Okay. So now we'll see mandatory safety reporting. What are the events that need to be mandatory? You have to report it to the FDA. Initial reporting. IND application sponsor, for example, I am the sponsor, must report any suspected adverse reaction or adverse reaction to study treatment that is both serious and unexpected. Both serious and unexpected need to be informed to the FDA. Unexpected, serious, suspected adverse reactions and observations from animal studies suggesting significant risk to the human subjects must be reported to FDA as soon as possible, but no later than 15 calendar days. I told you no, we'll read about 7-day rule. We'll also read about 15-day rule. So now you are saying within 15 days you have to report it to the FDA following the sponsor initial receipt of the information. Once the sponsor comes to know so and so serious event is there which is associated with the treatment of the drug, then you have to report it to the FDA. Unexpected, fatal, or life-threatening suspected adverse reactions represent especially important safety information and must be reported to the FDA as soon as possible, but no later than 7 calendar years. As I told you, no, in the question they have mentioned it three, but when I looked into the literature, I found this 7-day rule, 7 calendar days. Okay, following the sponsor initial receipt of the information. Follow-up reporting. Any relevant additional information obtained by the sponsor that pertains to previously submitted IND safety report must be submitted as follow-up IND safety report. After initial reporting, find some additional things are there, then you have to mention it in follow-up IND safety report. Such report should be submitted without delay as soon as the information is available, but no later than 15 calendar days after the sponsor received the information. So immediate reporting is very, very important when you're doing a trial. Next important thing we'll see from the FDA website only, all IND safety reports must be submitted. So when you submit to the FDA, there will be certain forms will be there. So we'll be reading about two types of forms here. Form that is 3500A and form 1571. So this Form 3500A, if from clinical trials or in a narrative format, if from animal epidemiological studies and be accompanied by Form 1571. So I will ask you, pause the video here, go back and check in the website, you will come across this PDF copy will be there. This both forms 3500A as 1571. Please go through this. I kept it for you people 3500A. The type of report, initial or follow-up, should be checked in the respective boxes on forms 3500A and 1571. The submission must be identified as IND safety report for 15 days reports, a 7-day IND safety report for unexpected, fatal, or life-threatening suspected adverse reaction reports, or follow-up IND safety report for the follow-up information. So there are three different types of them. One is 15-day reporting, another is 7-day reporting, another is follow-up IND safety report. In the question, 3 days is there, but as per the current FDA website, it is 7-day. Whenever there is unexpected or life-threatening suspected adverse reactions are there, then you have to give a 7-day IND safety report. This is the thing that you have to remember with respect to the exam. Report must be submitted to an appropriate review division that has the responsibility to review the IND application under which the safety report is submitted. So whenever there are different departments will be there in the FDA. separately review division for this type of safety reports will be there. To that only you have to submit. FDA recommends that sponsor must submit safety reports electronically. As you can see, nowadays we have ECTD, electronic. Earlier physical copies need to be submitted, but now electronically we need to submit in their website, in their portal. Other means of rapid communication to the respective review division, regulatory project manager, that is through either telephone, facsimile transmission, email may also be used. So apart from electronically submitting these forms, you can also go for other types of communication. Once you know for your trial, will be allocated one particular person, person, representative person from the FDA also. So that will be your means of communication will be there. To that person, you can directly speak over call, that is telephone, facsimile transcription, or email. Okay, all these things, no, you will learn in case of IND applications also. When you do IND applications, no, type A type of meeting, type B, type C meetings will be there. Okay, where you will either have physical meeting, or you will be having email communications, or you will be having uh, what is it, Zoom call meeting, like that. They will give you certain minutes or hours to discuss pre-IND meeting, type A, type B type of meeting. FDA meetings will be there. So like that. So if you want to understand, because not many of us will be having an opportunity to work on a new drug where we can be a part of type A or type B or pre-IND meetings. But if you want to see their communication to understand, I would request you go to the FDA website, take any new drug which is under like 1 year or 2 years only, which has been approved. Then you go and check in their website non-clinical overviews or FDA overviews or administrative documents from the FDA will be there. In that they will give, towards the end of the document, they will give appendixes where they will give you types of meeting, their minutes of meeting they will discuss. So what was the question the sponsor has asked, and what was FDA inspector has asked, and what the answer given by the sponsor. So from that also you can learn. So this type A, B, C type of pre-IND meetings, minutes of meetings you can get it from the, take certain example, take the documents, this type of meeting discussions you will be getting. So from that also you can learn. So one of two questions you might get in your exam with respect to types of IND or types of meetings. Okay. So generally, in exam, they will ask you, for example, I am developing a biotechnology derived drug. So what are the type of toxicology studies? What are the type of studies that need to be submitted to the FDA to get the approval? Such kind of case study, such kind of questions they will ask you in the exam. Okay, for that, you should always be known about all the ICH guidelines, safety guidelines, S2 up to 13 series, quality guidelines you should be knowing. You should be knowing multidisciplinary guidelines also, particularly M3, M4, M7, like that. Then you will be able to address those questions and able to speak to the FDA inspectors. Hope from this video you will able to learn about investigational new drug. Some other video will discuss about different types of IND. We'll discuss about different type of AND, IND type of 505 series of filing will be there that we will be discussing. Okay. Be curious. For any questions, you can always write mail to arya.priyanka18@gmail.com. Don't get confused. These terms, no, adverse event, adverse reaction, all these things are a bit confusing. 2 to 3 times you try to read it, then you will be able to remember. Okay. Thank you so much. All the best for your exam.